I think we were talking about a lot of skill gap and how to get across with that. We talked about the NAPS program. We talked about the feedback loop which can come across, and then mostly we talked about a value system if an industry can create with their areas of expertise into the colleges. Think about a maybe wherever they operate, they can help uh, colleges over there that what kind of tech they are going into and what tech they want possibly, and then through that incubation center kind of a setup, if they can say that I need this kind of engine for next 6 years or 3 years, something like that. So what college also can do is nothing but they can put a kind of an internship program around that incubation center. So what will happen? People will have hands-on. They will be more creative towards the problem, and maybe they will bring some new solution we never thought about. Because if somebody doesn't know where to go, he sometimes find a new way, right? So
Correct,
that's the way I
correct.
see it. So, as in terms of strategic governance, as someone looking closely at strategic oversight and board level direction, right? What is the number one operational blind spot that executive board tend to ignore until they it's too late, and how to come out of that?
Yes, without hesitation, it is the last mile.
Yeah,
Boards spend enormous time on strategy, technology investments, and financial metrics. What they often underinvest is in is understanding how their decisions actually play out at the operation level, at the terminal or field level. I would say that, or shop floor level. It means the policy versus practical.
yeah,
We make the policy, how it is getting implemented and then practically how it is happening. That that is measured through various audits, of course. That gives the real feedback. I would say that it is, in my experience, the most dangerous organization failure do not begin in the boardroom. They
Mhm.
begin in the gaps between policy and practice. When a field supervisor under pressure to meet the targets and quietly bypasses a safety protocol, or when an aging piece of equipment flags a warning, that nobody escalates because incentive structure punishes downtime.
Yeah,
They miss that. I have seen this pattern in, mainly in the infrastructure, big infrastructure sector or manufacturing sector or in logistics also. The board approved the right policies. The standard operating procedures were well written, but somewhere in the middle layers, the signal got lost. So the operation resilience is built from the ground up. Boards that understands this, those who understand this, they stay ahead of the curve. Boards that do not discover in the odd way, usually at the worst possible time.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
instead of seeing only the PowerPoint presentations, sometimes they have to, have that field visits and get the insights. 2-hour walkthrough of a field or the, shop floor or warehouse will often tell you more than 100 pages of management reports. That's what I wanted to say there.
I think that's very, very true across over there. I think that's the key for any leaders to be. That's what we say, keep grounded, right? Because people are not touching the ground. They doesn't know what problem it is. And people, if they don't understand the pain of the people across, it will be a failure somewhere because then
Correct,
the control will be
correct,
missed across, right?
correct.
Greatly, I think that's a good segment we have covered up. And what we have seen also into your profile that you have been part of independent director role or kind of a skill set now. You're already qualified for that. So, during this particular whole process of preparing for the independent writer, what key skill or mindset shift are essential? Was who wanted to be a effective independent director? That's question number one. And second question I wanted to ask on the same around area: how important are independence, courage, and speak up as a culture is required, and continuous learning is required through the independent director's role? So these two things I wanted to understand first towards the skill or mindset which need to be built, and how the integrity or the interpersonal skill will play a major role on handling that glue.
Firstly, the role of independent director is fundamentally different from an executive role,
Yeah,
which you agree that. And many people underestimate that shift. As an executive, your job is to drive outcomes within your domain, whatever the area you are being asked to do that. As an independent director, your job is to ask the right questions.
yeah,
That is the most important one. Provide a check on management and protect the interest of all stakeholders. Most important one. That including minority shareholders, their own employees,
yeah,
and the broader public. The first essential quality is genuine independence, not just in the legal or structural sense, but in mindset. You must be willing to hold a view that is unpopular if you believe it is correct. That requires both intellectual confidence and personal courage.
of course.
Otherwise, you will not be justified. You will not be justifying that. The second quality is the ability to ask probing, uncomfortable questions without being destructive. There is a real art to this. You are not there to obstruct management. Independent director is not there to obstruct the management. You are there to ensure decisions are well considered and properly governed. That's the role you have to play that. Again, on continuous learning, I cannot stress this enough. The business environment changes rapidly, whether it is in new regulations, technology shifts, or emerging risk frameworks. An independent director who is not actively learning will quickly become irrelevant. They will not, able to continue that profession, I would say that. So if they are not learning or if they are not updating continuously. Programs like those offered by Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs are extremely valuable because they provide, you also would have witnessed that they provide structured frameworks for
Yeah,
governance, legal responsibilities, and contemporary board practices, which are being, taught. I would encourage anyone who are, who want to become an independent director or aspiring to serve on boards to invest in such formal development. So without, investing yourselves in learning, you will not be able to grow in the long run. That's my submission.
so we have also seen that with your deep expertise in HSC, especially in health, safety, and environment, right? That's the core of one of the portion, along with the independent director course, that we are encouraged to know. And certification like PSM, NEBOSH, you have already completed that one, and you're a certified independent director now. How important it is for independent director today to drive ESG initiatives in their organization?
Rahulji, ESG is no longer a peripheral concern. It is a central governance obligation. And I say that with conviction, rooted in 36 years of working in, oil and gas sector. My background in health, safety, and environment means I've seen what happens when organizations treat safety and environment complaints as cost items rather than
Yeah,
core values. The consequences for workers, their own workers, communities at large, and the business itself can be devastating and irreversible if they neglect. I would say that. For independent director, having ESG means ensuring that it is embedded in strategy, not just reported in the annual sustainability report. That distinction matters enormously. Boards need to ask, do our capital allocation decisions reflect our stated ESG commitments? Our safety and environmental metrics are on the same dashboards as financial KPIs, because most of them will give weightage for that financial, KPIs. Is the company's supply chain held to the same standard as its own operations? In the petroleum and infrastructure sector specifically, I'm seeing these three strong trends. First, there is intensifying regulatory pressure around emissions, effluent management, and community impact disclosures. Organizations that have treated this as compliance as a checkbox are now scrambling. I would say that. Second, institutional investors, including large domestic mutual funds, as well as foreign portfolio investors, they're increasingly integrating ESG scores into their allocation decisions. So they invest if the ESG is excellent in any organizations. So this creates real financial consequences for boards that are complacent. Third, process safety, which is my particular area of expertise, is being recognized as a distinct discipline from occupational safety. The Bhopal legacy, or that for the matter international incidents, have reinforced that major accident hazard management must be board level conversation. They cannot neglect it. My certification in the process safety management from NEBOSH UK and my years leading HSC at headquarters level inform this view directly. The organization that build genuine safety culture at every level of hierarchy, I would say that, are the ones that earn long-term trust from regulators, communities, and investors alike.
Yeah. So I think I'll take this discussion forward. Possibly, we talked about a generic trend which is happening across, right? And we have seen in couple of years, like last couple of years, we have seen some conflicts coming in, like geopolitical impact and conflict coming in. And especially that has impact. The energy safety is one of the major concern from Indian perspective also, because we largely are the importers. We are not the exporters for that, and we have been struggling with that. And that has given the liberty for any of the global organization to uh, put their demand on us, right? So how you see those, like I talk about Hormuz, Iran-Iraq conflict in some years back. Every 10 years, this repeats over there as a trend, right? And then we are not able to do anything on that. So what
Correct.
shift we think we should do as a India growing across to a bigger economy and a growth perspective, right? What you advise or say that if you're in a position, what action you will take to make sure that our energy safety are not compromised and that doesn't impact our growth in from the other direction.
See, basically, find a place in your organization where your supervisor or manager is making high stakes,
Yeah.
decision based on experience and institution alone. Because the information system do not give them with what they need in time. That is your starting point. Fix the data problem first. Build a small visible win. Show your team that better data leads to better outcomes.
Hmm.
Digital transformation does not begin with the technology.
Mhm.
It begins with a question. What do we not know today that we wish we knew? Answer that question honestly, and your transformation roadmap will write itself. Start small, demonstrate value, then scale it up. And never lose sight of people executing that process.
Yeah.
Because even the best system will fail if the people running it into do not trust it or understand why it was built.
Correct. Yeah, I think that sums a lot of things we have covered today. If you see, so we talked about the transformation journey from the legacy system, so reactive to proactive approach. We talked about the problem statement is the key driver for any transformation. Understand the problem statement rather than what you have behind you or your backward, right? Backyard. So try to understand what you can fix in a small piece one, do a pilot, and go bigger for that. And we spoke about a bit of onto the side where how the skill in next 5 7 years will be the key to everything. Now IT is going to a transformation now, and then we see that other things also will be aligning, so we have to see the what is the next trend towards the skill management. And then as an independent director, I think we have to talk about not only the board inter what I can say interpersonal discussions over there, but they talked about the integrated system in health, safety, and environment also, or ESG factors. In fact, I say I add another portion called a CSR also, because that is our duty for the environment. So I think we have taken every leap across over there. The final question, possibly from my side, if you could give just one piece of advice to a mid-size enterprise leader who knows they need to digitally transform their operation tomorrow, right? What should they look first?
Look at your data,
Yep.
uh, but more specifically, that's the most important. Look at your data. Look at the decisions your people are making every day. Okay. Are they being provided the required support? Most important. Are they being provided with the right dashboard for them to take the right decisions? So if it is not, please provide them the dashboard, so that the most important one is that informed decision is most better than without any information, or you cannot take the decisions without required informations. So basically I would say that without good data to support the team, you will not be able to run the business. So most important is data, I would say that. So those who are having the data and the decisions are made based on the data are the valid one, or that will give the good results. The end results will be, in your favor. I would say that in your favor.
Yeah, I think we have seen that, right? Data is the new oil. In
Yes,
the so nothing beyond. It's great. I think incredible insight. Start small, look for the data, anchor it in the people executing the process, help them and grow together. Logan sir, I think thank
yes.
you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with us. It has been masterclass, I can say, modernizing the operation transformation, and in fact, going toward the future, what exactly the skills will look towards you, right? And to our listeners, thank you for turning into Jankoti Live. If you want to connect with Loganathan sir, we'll put the description into our podcast link in the notes over there. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave us a review if you think what exactly new things we have to add. And we will see you next time. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries of what possible. Thank you. Thanks, Loganathan sir. We'll connect back again.
Thank you, Rahul. Before conclusion, I just want to add the only one thing, that today's oil and gas supply chain is no longer just about moving fuel from refinery to customer.
Yeah.
It is not. It is about delivering the right product at the right place at the right time, at the lowest risk, most important, while
Yes.
maintaining safety, sustainability, and of course, profitability is the another thing. So, Rahulji, thank you very much. It is an absolute pleasure being on this show.
Yes.
My sincere thanks to you. All the very best. Yes,
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you. Yes.